I will do the intro and then I'll let you guys take it away. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our behavioral science webinar, Project Professor. Today we have Shawn Graham and Lisa Lavoie, and we have two students with us as well, Abby and Roger. And they are going to tell us all about the exciting things going on in the behavioral science major and very similar programs as well. So Shawn, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, great. Thank you, and nice to, I hope, see a lot of interest in behavioral science and the behavioral health field. Like Sarah was mentioning, my name's Shawn Graham. I'm a faculty member here in the program and the unit chair of the behavioral science program. And I think what we would just like to do for you today and how we maybe provide and share some information is we'll each give a kind of quick introduction to ourselves. We'll kind of give an overview of the program, some important pieces I think that are worth noting and paying attention to, and then have Abby and Roger speak about their experiences in the program. And I can share with you, we are not paying them. We've not guaranteed that they're going to get better grades. And as much as it's nice to be able to connect with faculty and talk with faculty, I think there's really some value in being able to connect or hear from a peer and someone who's in a program and what their experience has been like. And Abby and Roger have done this a few times and are, pretty honest and straightforward about this is what my experience is like and this is what UMFK is like. But quickly, anyways, like I said, my name's Shawn Graham. In addition to teaching at the university, and I've been at the university now for, I think, 13 or so years, I have a private practice. I work as a mental health and substance abuse counselor. And actually, my background is from practicing in the field, and I transitioned into higher education. So I still, like I said, have a small practice that I think is very meaningful. And I think Lisa will probably even touch on that somewhat, and maybe even Roger and Abby, that it's not just about going through content in a book or in journals, but really getting to hear real life applications and case studies and different things can really complement a lot of the things that we're doing. So I don't know, Professor Lavoie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Lisa, you're on mute.
It would help if I unmuted myself. My name is Lisa Lavoie, and I am Shawn's colleague in the behavioral science program. I am, unlike Shawn, a newbie to the program. I've been here for about a year, and I am also a licensed certified professional counselor as well as a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I too have a small private practice. And so one of the things that usually lands with students is the fact that you, and again, Abby and Roger can probably speak to this more than I can, but it seems to land with students that we're not only talking or discussing theories, that a lot of the times that we can bring in some personal case studies and things that we have actually seen and lived. And I think that, when theory meets application, that's always the best sort of learning environment for our students. So that being said, I hope that you will join us on this journey, and we would love to have you be part of our program. And with that, I'll turn it over to Abby.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby Pooler. I am a senior in the behavioral science program, but it's actually my 5th year of school, so I've bounced around majors quite a bit. And I think I settled on behavioral science because it included so much. It's a huge, broad thing to study, and it just really sparked my interest because what was most important to me in deciding a major was that I got to work with other people and really have that interaction with peers as well as others in communities and things like that. So I'll pass it over to Roger.
Hi everyone, my name is Roger Mirage. I'm from Kingston, Jamaica. I'm an international student here at the University of Maine, Fort Kent. I'm a junior, so this is my 3rd year here. I've always been a behavioral science student. For me, as Abby said, the program is so broad. I'm actually going to be going to law school after this, and you're probably saying, but you're doing behavioral science. But the program covers aspects of criminal justice, substance abuse, human services, case management, psychology, sociology. And so for me, it's really one of the best programs that can prepare you for law school. and can prepare you really to transition into anything. I mean, when I first came here, I had a choice of picking any major that could go to law school. I could have done math, food, and still go to law school, but I wanted something that would prepare me physically, mentally, and also psychologically to take on what dealing with clients, dealing with cases. And so I'm very excited to be in the program. There's a lot it offers, and I hope to see some of you in the fall next year or the spring even.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you, Abby. And I think it was kind of a nice natural segue into one of the things that I think is important to understand, and I think sometimes can be a disconnect for people considering different academic programs. Behavioral science and behavioral health field is very broad. We've had graduates that are social workers in hospitals, in inpatient units, social workers in schools and nursing homes. Our academic counselors do outpatient mental health case management with children, with adults, work in probation, work in human resources, work in advocacy and prevention, work in domestic violence. And that list kind of goes on and on and on. And I think one of the things that's important that we really, I think, do well, or we strive to do well, typically students have a general sense or interest that I want to work with kids, or I want to maybe work with families, or I have an interest in law. And what we really do throughout our coursework and through advising is really try to take the time to help you explore your values and interests and how that relates to different opportunities in the field. So one thing that is obviously important, right, is education means opportunity. And so when I have a degree, I have more opportunity. And within the behavioral health field, I think it goes a bit of a step further that your degree is important, but beyond that degree, what sort of license or qualification are you eligible for? And so within the behavioral science degree, we have kind of two tracks where it's more of an applied track. And that's where I'll spend most of my time. And we have a research track too. The applied track is where most of our students are, our student body in our program. And students have the option of, when they graduate, obtaining a conditional social work license, getting their mental health rehabilitation technician certification, and testing to become a certified alcohol and drug counselor. And so what that means is you have choice in what sort of roles and occupations you may want to do. I'm not saying one program at another school is better or ours is better, but I think one thing as a student and you exploring your options, it's very important for you to know is that beyond the name of the degree I have, what can I do with it? And what program and what faculty are going to help me navigate that and get to where I want to be. And so when I shared a number of the different things our students are doing, they needed licenses to do a lot of those things. So you could graduate from a program and not be eligible to get your social work license, right? So Andrea, who graduated from our program, in her internship got a job offer. Her internship was at a unit in a hospital, and her internship led to her job. But if she wasn't eligible for that license, she would not have gotten that job, right? And so those are the sorts of things that we really, and I think like Lisa was talking, beyond the case studies, beyond even the theory and how we connect those, we really want to help prepare you for workforce and what the needs are and what sort of licenses you need. So like I said, those are the three primary areas you're going to see. There's many roles in this field that do not require a license. We have graduates that work in TRIO programs and Upward Bound with high school students and student sports services at college campuses. They don't necessarily need a certification for that. But if you're looking for a job, it's really nice to have some choice, right? And if you are eligible for those kinds of licenses, then you can pick and choose what you do, as opposed to being limited to the 3 or 4 out of the 10 that you could potentially have. I think another element that's important is in talking about the relationships that we try to develop with our students and partnering with them, right? Our goal and how we approach teaching our program development really is to support you progress through the program. We really want to be an ally and a partner to help you succeed, not about creating barriers or making things harder. We really work with students too around options of continuing their education. Roger was talking about going on to graduate school. I know Abby's thought about it, and a number of our students do, and we will take the time to explore with you what sorts of graduate programs exist. Again, the licenses that exist. Lisa and I are both clinical counselors. We have advanced degrees that we needed to complete and test and get those clinical licenses. So we, again, work with students and actually have articulation agreements. For example, we have an agreement with a university within the University of Maine system that has a Master of Science in Counseling program that we work with very closely for our students who go on to that pathway that want to become therapists or guidance counselors or do those sorts of things. So we, again, work very closely with them around that. I think one of the other things that we're very proud of, and Lisa, I think, can maybe speak to a little bit more, but I'll just kind of introduce it, is we have a very active and engaged behavioral science club. There's really been a strong community of students over the past few years that have come together to the extent that last year on campus, they were recognized as the most engaged student body on campus. And that's a pretty big accomplishment when there's lots of different groups. And that's by no work of me or Lisa or anyone else. That's our students and how engaged and the sense of community that they have. But Lisa, do you maybe want to explain a little bit more about the club and what they're doing? And
Sure, I can do that. And I'll also add a little bit, Shawn, to what you said about, our program. I think most people would be hard pressed to find a career. I mean, there are some, right, that doesn't deal with people. And so what our program does is it really lays the foundation for effective work with people. Whether that means, being a member of the Forest Service, or being in criminal justice, or going on to what we traditionally think of behavioral science careers. So when you work with people, you need to have some of the knowledge that requires. And so these are the foundations that our program can lay quite effectively. And so I'll move now to our Behavioral Science Club. As Shawn said, they are very active. They every year might look a little different this year because of the pandemic, right? But they've had service learning trips to either Central Maine or Southern Maine, where they've actually engaged with certain particularly marginalized populations where they've been able to make a difference. So they've been to a homeless shelter, they've been to a substance use facility. So all of these avenues are open if you are a member of the Behavioral Science Club. They've also held recovery events for many years. An Out of Darkness walk, which I believe is suicide prevention, speaks to suicide prevention. So a lot of the topics that matter in the behavioral health field are front and center for the participants of the Behavioral Science Club. And although I am a co-advisor with Shawn to that club, I think that Abby is an officer of that club. And so I am sure that she can speak effectively to what it means to be a student and a student leader and a member of that club. So Abby?
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I think, of course, like I was in the nursing program at UMFK, so I've been in the student nursing organization as well. And what's super unique about the Behavioral Science Club on campus is how active they are within the community. I think it's unique of a group to actually go out and participate in those recovery events or walks, or buying Christmas presents for youth or kids whose families aren't able to buy Christmas presents, to even just being active on campus and like handing out little gift baskets or care packages and things like that, where like this year we know connection is kind of lost and motivation might be low this time of year. They're just really present on campus. And I also think being a part of it, it's kind of nice to be in a leadership role. You kind of get to participate with other students and learn a little bit more outside of just the behavioral science curriculum. So you learn how to like run a meeting, which is something that you are probably going to see in your professional life as well, like attending a meeting, writing minutes, learning to read an agenda, take attendance, things like that. Just gives you a little bit more responsibility that you can expect to see in professional life as well. And I guess just touching upon what Shawn said about how diverse the program actually is. I know I kind of bounced back and forth between majors, not really sure what I wanted. And when I went to originally to see Shawn, to see, what's behavioral science all about, I had no idea how diverse it can actually be. There's certain students in the program like Roger that are interested in law school. There's others that are interested in becoming basketball coaches and just want to relate better with their players. There's others that want to work in those traditional roles, but I think when you go in, it's so interesting to see how diverse, and even just taking a couple different classes and subjects that might interest you. Like I know in one of Lisa's courses, interviewing and counseling, there are some students in law enforcement and things like that. So just ways that we might better tailor our future professions and careers, I think is super important. So even if one of you are just interested in kind of finding out a little bit what the behavioral science program or its classes are like, I definitely suggest taking one, because I don't think that it's ever lost. And I think especially in today's world and the climate of our world today, learning about people is so important, and about, you know, important issues or situations that might be going on is super important. And you get that out of almost all of the behavioral science classes that I've taken, at least. Yeah, so I'll pass it over to Roger for his ideas.
Yeah, one thing I always try to tell people, especially here at UMFK, is how small we are as a community, but how big we are with our program. So we're not a big university, but we have what we need to succeed. And so you get the community learning. And by community learning, I mean you have smaller classrooms, you interact with your professors more, you have guidance more. For example, I mean, we're supposed to enroll ourselves in our classes and stuff. And my advisor, who happens to be Shawn, takes the time out to make sure they email you, they go through, they say, okay, we have a new class. This is what the class is about. Are you interested? And they try to match it with what they know you want to do. So you're not just put in a class to say, okay, let's meet the credits that we need for this semester. It also makes sure there's a connection. And I find that's very important to our program. It helps to create that balance between student life. I'm involved in many clubs, many different organizations, but I still find the time, because of the guidance provided, to balance with the behavioral science program. I'm not a part of the club currently, but I was a part of it. And I can tell you, even the club, it is the most active club. And before COVID, they had service trips, which I myself wanted to go on, you know, but unfortunately we can't go on. But the program is set up in a manner where you will get every piece of component you're required. Oftentimes, conflicts in life is because we don't understand people, whether it's conflicts of war, country, the workplace. And so understanding people, understanding behavior. I'm even taking a class this semester called personalities, and you're understanding why we behave the way we behave. Why do, you know, the subconscious and the conscious, like you're learning so much about yourself and others that you probably didn't think, you know, there was a way to express it or understand it. I mean, even Lisa Lavoie was my teacher, and we had a class called abnormal psychology. And one of the things we did in that class was a book called Turtles All the Way Down. It happened to be one of my favorite books now, and I tell persons about it. So you go into a class called abnormal psychology, and you think it's just going to be hard and it's just going to be lectures, but it had that book component. And out of that book component, we got to understand OCD in a way, obsessive compulsive disorder. For those of you who don't know, we understood it in a way, and we were able to relate to the character and to actually what was being taught. And so the program, as I said, is very special.
Thanks, Roger. And I don't know if this was mentioned or not. I apologize if I'm repeating it. And I just want to, I think, kind of in a minute, I want to talk about the community, the network that Roger was mentioning. But before that, you know, some of the cool things about working with the students in the club is the club is student run. So the students are the ones who decide what areas of focus, what interests, what projects they want to undertake. Our students are the ones that decide this is what we want to do for a service learning project. I think Lisa mentioned, or Lisa and Abby mentioned, that there's service learning projects. So with our support, you know, for example, like we've planned trips where we've gone to Togus and Riverview Psychiatric Center and Long Creek Youth Development Center in Portland. And I mean, up and down the state. And, you know, there's always a service component. We'll spend a day at the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter or volunteering and, you know, a variety of different things. But it's the students that decide what they want to do and build that. And we support them. And a lot of times through support with Student Senate. And because of how active the club is, it's at no cost to the students to go on these 2 and 3 day service trips and learning. And I share that because 2 of the more recent trips we went on And I think just to highlight the demand right now in the workforce is we brought students on a tour of, and they got to meet with a bunch of different professionals at Togus, which is a part of the VA and one of the largest campuses, I think, in the country. And in that same trip, we actually had gone to Riverview Psychiatric Center. And so beyond meeting a lot of the staff and the programs and tours and all these sorts of things, they spent time trying to recruit our students to go do their internships and work for them, right? One of the things is there's a really high demand for this profession right now in a variety of different roles. And I think through some of those networks and the work that we're doing, we're having students in their second and third years being recruited for employment, which I think is kind of meaningful. And I say that even in the context of Roger mentioning, and I think, and I can't speak for Lisa, but I think one of the things we appreciate with smaller classes is it becomes a lot more personal. We get to know everyone, and it's easier to adjust and shape how we cover curriculum and what we do. But we have strong community partnerships and relationships. There's an agency, it's kind of an integrated physical and behavioral health agency in the area. They wanted to develop some literature around suicide awareness and prevention and approached us, and we worked with them, and we had our students going to board meetings, learning what they wanted, creating the material, going back and presenting it, editing it and revising it. So like, here's these kinds of real world applications that students were interested in and volunteered with and through the club were able to go and work with an organization through their class and through the club. And I think, I don't want to say that's rare, but I don't think that happens a lot. And so we really try to be mindful of those things. I know we're kind of running on time here, so we don't need to be long-winded. And I think the best part of this whole thing is really going to be hearing from Abby and Roger about what classes are really like and what you can kind of expect. But just a couple of quick things to touch on. We do have an advisory council, which is comprised of leaders from the behavioral health field, from around Aroostook County and beyond, that really help us stay up to date with what are the workforce needs, what do you need in employees, what are the trends you're seeing in your different roles. And that's really what helps us make revisions and modify our content and curriculum as we go, because we're getting, real hand, this is what's happening and what we need. And so we're trying to respond to that because we meet with them regularly. I think one of the last things I just want to mention, I guess really is about our internship program. We have a pretty extensive internship program where we are going to begin working with you, pretty much from day one, but it's going to become much more intentional around year 2 and going into year 3 about exploring your values and looking at different options. I can share with you that almost all of our students, if they are choosing, are getting job offers out of their internships. But that's also because we're very intentional about planning and placements, and students are not place bound to doing an internship at Fort Kent. We have students from New Hampshire, Massachusetts, California, Hawaii, Montreal, and all over Canada, and all over the world, right? Roger's not even from the US. And so we work with students to help them explore placement options, even where they believe they are going to begin their careers. We'd love for everyone to come and stay in Fort Kent, right? Especially after having worked with you for so long. But let's say, you want to go to Massachusetts, you want to go to California. Well, we're going to work with you so that in your last semester, your internship is going to be in an area where you want to begin your careers or advance your careers or whatever the case may be. And we'll work with you so that it's kind of this hopefully seamless transition that I'm going into my last semester, and on Friday I end my internship, and on Monday I go into work for them, right? And I can tell you, even in light of the pandemic, last semester alone, many of our students got job offers before they graduated. We have a student right now that has a cooperative placement that was offered a job 3 weeks into their placement, right? There's huge demand. And I just want to highlight that with you, that it's not just what we do in the classes. It's not just what we do in the club. Like, we really want to work with you from day one, supporting you through classes, supporting you through your placement into the field, continuing on to graduate study. And we really try to be intentional in how we go about those things. So I think maybe more importantly, and obviously if I've forgotten something, Lisa, like add in, but I think it would be great to hear from Abby and Roger. And again, they're not being paid. But what classes are really like, what assignments are like, what their experiences are like.
I think one of the most unique aspects of the classes is that we're not just sitting there watching a PowerPoint and listening to a lecture. I mean, sometimes obviously that does happen when we need to learn materials, but for the most part, it's interacting with other students, or like Roger mentioned, like reading a book that might have something to do with the subject that we're supposed to be learning about, and then having a discussion. We do case studies. We sometimes watch like short videos to help us really understand the material. So it's pretty open to different types of learners. So whatever your learning style is, I definitely think that they cater to all. Unfortunately, right now with COVID, we can't be as interactive as we would normally be. We're not necessarily getting together in small groups and things like that, but they're making the best out of it. We still are able to do that in a modified way. Of all my classes, I mean, they're all pretty interesting. Like I haven't had one yet that I've dreaded going to, unlike other majors I've been in. They're pretty interesting. They always kind of make you reflect back on other experiences you've had, like personally, or like maybe you've seen other people going through. Like I think of Shawn's vocational aspects class, where you kind of learn about disabilities and like what accommodations we should be making for those with disabilities. And it's crazy to actually put like just general places you go to in town into perspective, and how they're not accommodating to those with disabilities physically or otherwise. So it kind of just I think all the classes make you reflect on your own experiences in your own life. So that's my favorite part of all the classes that I take. And I'll pass to Roger.
Thanks, Evie. When I think of my classes, one thing I'll say is that I've never gotten the same experience from any of the same classes. Everything is a new journey. It's something looking new for. Even in the pandemic, I'm taking a class, well, it's a gen ed called Intro to Biotechnology, and it has a lab component. And for the first time, I'm using a lab online. I'm actually doing the experiment online. But in regards to behavioral science, I mean, I've had Shawn as a teacher, I'd have Lisa as a teacher, and it's totally different experiences, but both good experiences. The interaction in the classroom, it's not a I talk, you listen. It's not a I lecture and you write. It is let us work together, let us interact. Most of the behavioral science classes are usually discussions and interactions, always have a group component, always have a final research project, whether it's a group project, whether it's a book report, or whether it's like for me, I have to do what is called a case conceptualization for substance abuse and counseling. At the end of my case management class last semester, I had to do an actual case file on a client, and that involves me coming up with the client, assessing, treating, recommending. It's like I'm actually doing it. And I felt, well, I wouldn't say I felt important, but I felt for a minute like a behavioral science therapist or psychologist, especially when I was doing my case management file. I felt like I knew the client. I felt like I was actually treating the client, and I felt like I was making a difference. For a minute, I thought about, do I want to do law? But yeah, I want to do law. But it made me see a different side of, the view of a person. I mean, my mom is in the medical field, and I've always heard her talk about different pills and substances, and I'm interacting with them now. I'm studying them. I know the cause and effects of them, and that's one thing I'd definitely have to give the behavioral science program. As Shawn said, I'm not getting paid to say any of this, and anybody on campus who knows me will tell you I speak my mind. So when I say it is the real thing, I mean it is the real thing, and it's just good. Like, don't expect that you passing or failing the class will be on exams only. No, that's one. It is not okay. You have 60 multiple choice questions. You need to get 55 at least out of 60 pass. That's not how it works. A lot of the makeup of these classes are breakdown like a lot. You have your class participation. You have your class discussions, you have your article reviews. We do that a lot. And an article review is literally finding an article on a subject, presenting to the class. And so it gives you that chance to present as a teacher, to answer questions, to ask questions. Then you have your overall, obviously you have some tests you're going to take, but failing those tests doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you're going to fail the class. You do need to pass the test if you're looking for a good grade, but it's not heavily weighted. It's all balanced to make sure that you're well-rounded. And that's the two words that, I'll use for the well-rounded for the program.
Well, great, thank you. And I guess that's a nice segue back to me then, right? Being well-rounded. So I hope everyone that this has answered some of your questions, maybe provided a little bit more insight into the program, hopefully sparked some curiosity that you might want to reach out. I know through admissions, myself, Lisa, we're always happy to talk, to have someone sit in on a class and see what it's like, to even, talk about your interests and how this program can help you maybe get there. But, we're more than willing to do that. And like I said, we hope this was helpful. And thank you to all our panelists who came today, and Sarah for setting everything up. And we hope you have a great day and stay healthy.
Thank you, everyone who tuned in. As Shawn mentioned, everyone in the admissions office, as well as Shawn and Lisa, and even our current students, are willing to answer any questions. So please never hesitate to reach out. What I love to hear from our students are these amazing internships and field experiences that they're getting with not just adults, but correct me if I'm wrong, Shawn, but they're adolescents and children. And no matter if you're working in a hospital or a school or at an organization like ACAP or an outpatient mental health facility, you're getting that experience that's going to prepare you, and you're getting it early on, and you're figuring out what you like and what you don't like and what you want to more gravitate towards when it comes to either grad school or the professional field. So there's two different options. There's an associate's and a bachelor's route to either of these professions. Depending on the licensure you want to go into, that's kind of how Shawn and Lisa advocate and advise their students as to what's best for them. So we are always here to answer all the detailed questions that you might have. And I want to thank you for our attendees for joining us today, but also our panelists, both Abby and Roger and Shawn and Lisa. I thank you so much. And we are happy to work with you on any social media collaboration. I know you guys have a social media account. If you want to, Shawn, say what the handle is for that, but both UMFK ADM on Instagram and TikTok is available for you guys to follow and for more information. But Shawn, you have your very own.
Well, the Behavioral Science Club has a Facebook page, and we are launching our Instagram page actually within the next couple of weeks. So
Great.
I don't have the name offhand. I'd have to look for it, but so it's coming.
Yeah. Please follow us if you want more information, and don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you very much for our attendees and our panelists for your time. All right, bye guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.